Streaming and content creation is harder than your 9 to 5, says this person. But is this true or not? I believe the answer is not as simple. Most people believe streaming is easy. Just hit start streaming and that's it. Recently, this was a pretty polarizing talking point after Deme, a popular VTuber, posted about her appreciation for streaming, and she thinks of it as a privilege. But things got heated when Monia, another VTuber, shared her perspective of how streaming is not as easy as it seems. Although the way she framed it was kind of questionable, I personally agree with them both.
Personally, I do get that, but it can be hard. But I also agree with Demi's original take that it's really not that hard compared to other things. Yeah. So what I said, just so you guys are aware, I agree with them both. I think that the reason this discussion happens is because every year this exact same post resurfaces for this reason, asking if streaming is easy or hard.
Even in the case of comments, most people aren't privy to the context and nuances. Most haven't even reached to the point in the video where he declares a 9 to 5 to be difficult, but also content creation to be tough as well.
Weeks sometimes of production to get to that end result. They are obviously both difficult because nothing is easy, but they are both very different in the ways that they are difficult.
This is where I agree. And to make it really clear, I wanted to use a couple analogies. An old retired mechanic might be able to build a car from the ground up, but put him in front of a computer screen and he wouldn't know how to set up OBS, let alone be good at streaming or content creation. Now, notice how I said good at and not successful, because Queso, being a highly successful creator, might not know much about editing at industry standard or make well animated and eye-catching overlays, because what he brings to his streams is his personality. The way people approach content creation and streaming differs based on their personality and preferences. It's easier for an articulate extrovert to create content as fast as possible, whereas the shy and anxious type have to do a lot of behind-the-scenes jobs in the form of groundwork to even achieve that way of thinking and performing. At least as a beginner, it is difficult to even find proper relationships. There also is a difference in how people think of this career. Some think of it as a business, which I believe is not bad at all. They very well can be numbers oriented and calculative and may burn out a lot, but that doesn't automatically make them a bad person. They can manage both types of relationships, just like a 9 to 5 office relationship. The overall nuance is that comparing content creation and a 9 to 5 job is like comparing apples to oranges. Both are difficult in their own aspects. People have various levels of investment in content creation. The effort varies as well, because some might be okay with good enough content. But most creative people who want to make it as a creator try to compete with the best edited videos, the best audio mastered videos, the best motion graphics, and top-notch overlays and engagement techniques, all on their own initially. This effort, I believe, is what is almost or just as difficult as a 9 to 5. People with a passion don't feel the difficulty, but people who are calculative will feel the pressure because they would want to min-max everything. Both types are not wrong in their own sense.
99.9% of the time when people talk about streaming, they talk about the all-around package. They talk about growing a community. They talk about the streaming activity. They talk about engaging with their community. They talk about sponsors, about planning ahead, about merch, about collabs, about everything that's around it. When people talk about streaming is hard or easy, they don't just talk about the activity of pressing start stream, showing up, talking to chat, and being done with it. But Deme refuses to acknowledge that. Throughout the entire stuff, she refuses to acknowledge that.
I personally did not want to focus on the Deme situation, but had to since a lot of valid points and perspectives were in play. Everything that Deme said is a valid perspective, but she refuses to look at other perspectives. I do agree with Deme that once a creator has reached to a point where they make considerable amount of money, it gets easier. But that can also be said about a 9 to 5. Everyone who gets a hang of something are bound to find it easier to do. There are definitely harder 9 to 5 jobs which people work. A common example is an oil rig job, which most people in the comment section of Kamen's video refer to. Both arguments are valid, but under different circumstances. But guess what? The oil rig job is also harder than a McDonald's job. Both garner their own respect though. The main issue I personally had with the argument in both these situations has to be that most don't consider these different circumstances. Moreover, social media has already become a place where only extreme opinions get pushed, while nuances barely receive the same exposure. It's in a way conditioning people to be polarized and divided by rewarding extreme opinions. Hence the valid hate for Twitter or X. To have a nuanced conversation about such a topic, I believe social media as a medium will not do justice. Now, about the Kamen situation, I believe the clickbait that he put out polarized a lot of people. So much so that they did not even pay attention to his nuanced arguments in the later parts of his video. About the Deme situation, I believe both her and Monia have a valid argument, but if you put this argument aside, the way Deme refuses to even understand the nuance and realize that no one disagrees with her really seems similar to someone. She seems to put the people she disagrees with down. It feels like she genuinely believes they are stupid.
Maybe she'll realize she was just being a little unhinged, right?
People are mad at you for calling her Cinder? Yeah, and I apologize to Cinder for that because she actually loved her community. But listen, I should have just said it what it is. Cloud Chaser.
Bruh.
Is what it is. Who is it?
Well,
Bruh.
reason.
What? Did I just hear that correctly?
Maybe she'll realize.
Bruh. Yeah, final thoughts, Deme is constantly tripling and doubling down. Sorry, doubling and tripling down. Called Monia like Cinder.
Now, to close my perspective of the question of whether a 9 to 5 is easier than streaming and content creation career, my belief is that it depends on the type of 9 to 5, it depends on the type of stream and content, as well as it varies from person to person. And also, it depends upon what is being compared. Acceptable content quality standards are different for each, and so is the circumstance. Creative types of people can not do creative stuff of obsessing over everything creative and making everything perfect in their image. Aesthetic-focused people would like everything aesthetic-wise to look the best. Introverted people would like to fix everything about themselves to compete with people who are naturally outspoken. Deme thinks her effort is not effort since she likes it, which I agree with, but that doesn't mean everyone should see it that way. So in the end, if I have to boil it down to a couple words, in my opinion, the answer to the question, is streaming and content creation harder than a 9 to 5, is it depends.